Before I go on today's journey with you, man, I want to say thank you to all my new subscribers. For whatever reason, we've picked up quite a bit of momentum in the past couple of weeks, and I greatly appreciate that. While catching numbers and getting views for the sake of entertainment is not my objective here at all. In fact, my objective is to get men to stop being goofy bitches who follow other goofy bitches telling them goofy shit. Now, with that being said, I want to dive into today's lesson, and we're going to kill two birds with one stone. We're going to go into rules number 3 and number 4. Number 3 being never seek pleasure for the sake of pleasure. And number 4, don't let love and lust cloud your vision or guide your choices. Now, sometimes I think that we learn best by visualization or seeing, experiencing something. A lot of times we can learn things simply by hearing a story that can resonate within our souls. And that's how I want to begin this point. I want to share with you a story. I met this guy that had been in a relationship with a girl for about 2 or 3 years. They had gone into some rocky zones and had some typical relationship problems. They had been talking about getting married. But the girl started to feel a little bit uneasy. Things started getting weird, and she told him that she needed some space, some time to think. And so being a good guy, he appeased to her, said, do what you got to do, and he let her reel. So this separation is 1 or 2 months long, and after she comes to her senses, she comes back and she tells the guy that she's decided that she's ready to get married, and he is in fact who she wants to be with. So he gets super excited. They move back in together, and for a couple of months, everything is amazing. And then he starts getting sick. He doesn't understand why, but he continues to get sick. He continues to get the flu and be bedridden. And he just can't get a grasp on it because he's a really healthy guy. He takes care of himself and he watches his diet. He does all of these things. He's a healthy dude, and all of a sudden he falls ill. Well, as he's going to the doctor, he's trying to figure out what's going on. They do a test and they find out that he's contracted HIV. Well, because they were trying to have a child before, they had been tested and they were both clean, and he was trying to figure out where this came from. Well, she tests positive as well, and the story comes out that while she was taking her break, she was on the CC getting railed out by at least one guy who was HIV positive. And so this guy goes on for the next year or so, and his life becomes a living hell as his health deteriorates, and he eventually succumbs to AIDS and dies. That was 1991, before the internet, before Tinder, swipe apps, any of that. You had to actually deal with people, meet people, go out and engage with people to do this type of thing. And this happened very easily. Now, when I bring this to the point that I'm making today, one of the biggest mistakes that I think that guys make, and one of the things that's propagated throughout the manosphere, is having a roster, spinning multiple plates, and increasing the number of women that you can have sex with. Now, I understand that that's fun. I did it. I did it excessively. And a couple of things that I know from doing that kind of stand more firm than the temporary gratification that you get from doing this. See, we all like to harp on women's lack of ability to pair bond because they've rode the carousel, and it's really popular and it's comfortable to focus our attention on the other side of this coin. But the problem is when you spend time as a man trying to rack up bodies, you also develop a desensitized experience of what women are. If it's easy for you to just go out and smash some chick, chances are it's not a high quality woman. The woman doesn't think very highly of herself because she's given herself away so freely and easily without anything. But because men have a convoluted view of who they are and their own value, they think that these women are doing this because they're valuable guys. And maybe sometimes that's true, but I would say that that's probably a minority case. Most dudes, even guys that are higher on the sexual market value scale, end up shooting low because it's easy. Low-hanging fruit is way easier to pick than climbing and getting the one that's on the top of the tree. And we all do it. We all do it if we have the opportunity and the ability to do so. But what happens when you seek pleasure for pleasure's sake is you become desensitized to anything real. Whenever you bang out a bunch of women and, keep a tally score, what ends up happening is you believe that all women are whores, because all women who do that are whores. That's the way that works. And if you only deal with these type of women, then you will think that all women are that way. But it's not just seeking pleasure sexually, drinking, drugs, anything, almost anything that offers you instant gratification is going to be bad for you. Think about it. Think about all the times that you did something because it felt right or felt good or seemed like a good decision right now, and then dealt with the ramifications of it later and looked back and said, man, I shouldn't have fucking done that. We've all done it. And if you haven't done it, it's because you just haven't looked at yourself honestly. That's a very, very fundamental human thing. We are in a culture that preaches instant gratification, fast food relationships, fast food experience. We have built in planned obsolescence into our human interactions to the point where we don't have to deal with anybody's bullshit because it's just too easy to get on the phone and order some sex on one of these apps. It's just too easy. It's disgusting. And because of this, you will develop an inability to see anything good. You will almost have an addiction to low-quality, mediocre women and easy sex. And I know while that seems to be exactly what a man's imperative is, men don't build anything when their primary objective is getting more sex from women. The time, the effort, the energy, the emotional dump, all of those things that go into seeking this temporary gratification, all of that stuff is wasted time that could really be spent in building yourself into a man that was really valuable and was worth an experience with a woman who wasn't a piece of shit. Seeking pleasure for pleasure's sake will always end up in bad decisions. It will always end up in regret. And there's great power in being able to discipline yourself, to beat yourself into submission to what you want, to what you really truly want, and not what your emotional impulses are telling you. One of the things that I've learned in life is that when you make yourself unavailable, you become very much attractive to the opposite sex. If you're thirsty and you always show up, think about this. How many times have you gone out with the intention of hooking up with someone only to go home and have to turn on your favorite device and get out your lotion, or call some fat chick, some 3 on your scale? How many times does that happen? And then think on the opposite side, how many times did you go out just to hang out with your buddies and you were completely detached from the notion of doing any sort of hooking up, and then it just falls into your lap? So that's the way that it works. Whenever you want something and you're thirsty, the only thing that you're going to find is trash. But whenever you have control over yourself, when you use pleasure for a reward for doing something, being something, accomplishing something, instead of what you do on Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, whenever you start to discipline your life and stop living like the Romans in their end times and start living like them when they were building that empire, that's when things grow. That's when things happen. But the problem with seeking pleasure for pleasure's sake, especially when you're doing it on a sexual level, you open yourself to a myriad of possibilities that go far beyond just busting. You could come up on a Jodi Arias, some crazy chick who's got intentions on you that you had none for her, and end up dead. You could end up like this dude in the story who ends up with a chick who goes out and gets smashed by some disgustingly dirty dude and brings that back to you. And it could be your girlfriend, it could be a one-night stand, it could be anything. Being reckless with yourself, being reckless and following this prescription of spinning plates and smashing all these chicks, puts yourself at an infinitely greater risk than having some discipline and making choices for your life that are guided toward what you want, what you truly want, what you need in your life, and not what the little boy inside of you says that you want right now. When you get caught up in these type of scenarios, love and lust, these things that make men weak come into play. And when you start making decisions that you think are based off love and lust, you're basing them off of a chemical reaction that's trying to keep you trapped where you're at, no matter what the quality of the woman is. That's biology. And that's why a lot of men end up in marriages that fail, in relationships that fail. The notion is that women are terrible and all of this shit, and on a large scale, that's correct. But the bigger problem is that people are getting married and getting involved in relationships with people that they do not know. And when you go about things the same way you've always done them and you continue to get the same result, it's not the other people, it's you. Because there are people that are happily married in this country, probably more than content creators are going to be aware of. And the reason for that is those people don't hang out with miserable fucking losers. They don't have to make YouTube videos about how happy they are because they're actually happy about living life and doing things. Losers and dummies like to act like their experience is the only one on the planet. The problem is the majority of people in America are shit. That's the truth. Women have no respect and men have no pride. And for that reason, we are just in a cesspool. Both sides crying about what the other side's doing and nobody's willing to lead. My men lead. That's what we do. We lead. Understanding red pill content isn't meant for you to shun, run away, hide, and be a coward. It's to make you into a warrior. The best thing that men and young men can do is learn to harness the power of your energy. Whenever you're running around boning anything that'll let you do it, you're constantly wasting energy. Use that pent up frustration and go build an empire. Build an empire, and then when you do that, you don't have to chase anybody. You don't have to chase. You don't have to try. You don't have to perform. You'll have the women that you want in your life lining up outside of the gates of your kingdom, hoping to get a chance to come inside. But the thing is this, if you want to change what happens in your world, you have to change yourself. And when you enter into any sort of engagement with a woman with a little boy's mindset of just merely having sex with her, that's going to be the end. That'll be the end game. That'll be the end of you being able to see clearly and make fundamental decisions for your own life that'll lead you down a path that you want to be in. What that'll do is it will blind you, and you will follow her to wherever she leads you to. And more often than not, that is off a cliff. And when the scales finally fall away from your eyes, you're only moments from hitting the ground. The problem isn't other people, gentlemen. It is with us. Stop seeking pleasure for pleasure's sake. Instead of putting your energy trying to see how many women you can bang, see how many people you can help. That's what makes you a valuable man. What makes you valuable isn't what you acquire, what you attain, how many people are applauding you while you're here. What makes you a truly valuable man is how many people do that when you're gone. Build your legacy. Build your legacy by stepping away from the crowd and going against the grain. That's how you become an uncommon man. Pleasure is not to be a commodity. Pleasure is not to be a fast food commodity. Pleasure makes you weak. Discipline, self-discipline makes you strong. Stay out of your emotions and stop seeking pleasure like a little boy. And then you will start to open up your eyes like a man. Out.